Hi, so I got a very interesting message and I thought I would make a quick video because the timing is right um, to address how to break generational curses, how to acknowledge or how to even determine that you have possibly a cycle of inherited karma or maybe your own karma, that you're recognizing a pattern, but you're not really knowing how to navigate out of that. So basically, uh, there's a few notes I put together really quick. So how to break generational curses. First, how to find out if you are in fact cursed, which would be the recognition of a series of unfortunate events that seem to um, surround you, your physical experience, your personal perspective. Um, Bad luck. You can put it lightly as that, bad luck. So you look for patterns basically in your family history. You can look at aspects of financial history or in your personal life if you have repetitive issues with regards to your finances, with familial history, interpersonal relationships. Back to the money thing, if you basically just have a lack mindset or you covet money, so you hoard it or you're selfish or you've got a history of familial greed or that lack mindset. A lot of self-development books actually talk about that. How your parents simply were always talking about how money doesn't grow on trees. That's a trigger, psychological thing that can have a trickle-down effect to where people have a relationship with money that is unhealthy and that could perpetuate different moves that you make in life that then perpetuate your discord. So you're going to have a pattern around money. It could be also in interpersonal relationships if you have an avoidant nature where you cannot confront things head on, where you typically run from confrontation because you don't understand that discourse is healthy and that our throat chakra is meant to be open, that we're meant to speak truth, that you have to find a healthy way to communicate in order to release and exchange, just like currency and money. The energy needs to flow and we block it and we stop it, then we create these patterns of um, discord again. So this uh, curse that you could have in relationships by always encountering someone who tends to play mind games or manipulates you. Well, how are you showing up, or how did you have a history in your family of someone doing the same? Recognize the pattern. So you have to identify it. Intellectual battle of the wits, people that are constantly shaming you for being not smart or not good enough, or people, or vice versa, that you have to be the smartest person in the room, or else, that's this need to prove yourself, all of these things. It could be so simple. Professionally, power struggles in the workplace, tests of will, if you have in your own personal life, it keeps getting to this point where it's a matter of character or a matter of morals. Do you speak out against something that's wrong, or do you just bite your tongue and deal with it? Do you put your head down? These are tests as well, tests that are made against you. And if you are going to be the person to break a generational curse, you have to first recognize it and then you have to act accordingly. So this goes into the next thing. Again, also there could be spiritual history or patterns with things that are just creating a very fixed mindset, which we'll get into, closing yourself off to certain things just because they're not acceptable or they're frowned upon in your history, which you realize has basically strangled the ability to awaken your third eye, your consciousness, the crown. You're blocking yourself down here, the level of things that are very physical, and you're strangling off the energetic flow of things that are of the higher mind and the higher consciousness because you didn't understand them, you feared them, or you were just told that it's not for you, that it's not good for you. You could actually have a generational curse of people that are very physical minded and not spiritually engaged. And so then you have a repetitive, ongoing cycle of life trying to awaken you to your inner power, to inner strength, and to be that person to take that step. So you could be the black sheep in your family because you do entertain certain things or look into certain things. But Again, how you act on it once you recognize the pattern determines whether you break the curse or you continue the curse. Curses are patterns of a need to address something that is being ignored, your intuition. So that's the next thing. You need to acknowledge karma. You need to acknowledge in simple words, cause and effect. If you put your hand on a fire on a stove, are you going to get burned? Yes, there's a cause and there's an effect. So you need to accept that that is a reality. That's a law that goes on irrespective of persons and anything that you can do to try and manipulate the situation. Every cause has an effect. And a great piece of advice that I once learned, and then I applied it spiritually when I realized you are always on stage. Okay? Look at yourself as being always on stage. Imagine that there is an audience that is privy to your thoughts, that is privy to your motives, that is privy to all of your actions, the things that you've done throughout your life. It's recorded and noted because that's what karma is, or cause and effect. So what you think you do in your private heart of hearts, it is not your own. Imagine if, say, in an afterlife, you have to look at a screen and you're confronted with all the choices that you've made, all the decisions, all the things that you've done, all the thoughts that you've made, had, and all the ways that you acted upon them. Whether you acted with, maliciousness towards someone, you acted out of spite, you tried to get revenge. If you have this, if you're fueled by drama and those kinds of things, the things you think that no one knows, they are known, and they could play out in these curses that you see in your life because you revert that energy back to yourself. Because what we're learning is our connectedness to one another as well. When you unclench that stranglehold you have on the higher self, the spiritual mind, and you recognize that what I do to another person, I am doing to myself. If you don't get it because you're seeing that person, that vessel, as this thing, if you practice hatred in any way, then later on down the line, maybe you experience some form of hatred. You experience some form of that energy that you pushed out to someone else. Or it could be inherited from lifetimes where you have a family who harbors certain energetics, which you have then absorbed through your upbringing, and then you receive some of the aftermath of that until you recognize the pattern, and you act through love, you act through compassion, you act through connectedness. And yes, you can still, tell someone where to shove it when they're wrong, but we're going to do that with awareness of where we want to build karma or where we want to pay off our karmic debts, balance our things back out. Again, it's all returned to you in equal measure unless you really don't get it, unless you really don't get the messages. Then it's given back to you tenfold, okay? The stronger your lessons are, the message, the louder and clearer it is that you're not getting it, or that you're continuing to act in a certain way when life is trying to teach you otherwise. There's a commercial on YouTube actually that I think makes a perfect example of this. It drives me crazy. It's supposed to be all emotional and heartfelt about one of those cancer, commercials. This lady, she starts off talking about Cole, and he was her miracle child. And then she goes on to say that she had 10 miscarriages, and then finally she was able to conceive this baby Cole, and then he got cancer and died. And how could that happen to your miracle child? How could they then get cancer and die? And it's all, emotional. And all I hear is God, the universe, whoever you want to call it, the energy, cause and effect, karma, tried to tell you not once, not twice, not 3 times. We understand by this time, you might still keep trying, but after a 4th, a 5th miscarriage, a 6th miscarriage, a 7th miscarriage, if you can get to the point where you're actually going to sit here and tell the world that you had 10 times of the universe trying to tell you that your womb is not conducive to produce and bring this life forward. Perhaps it was trying to spare you, create a message, create a warning. It was trying to spare you the pain of giving birth and bringing forth life force, knowing the attach that a mother would have to that child, and then to have that taken from her with disease because maybe that was perhaps an inherited scenario that was supposed to happen for her bloodline. So and that gets real deep. But just try to remove yourself from the victim story, which is another thing that we're going to get into, is recognize that you had the lessons and you chose to ignore them. And so the lessons get louder and louder and louder. If you don't, by the count of 10, recognize that something here is not lining up, and you continue to act as if you do not see the signs, red flags, so they call them, whatever, then sometimes the universe gets more clear with the lesson. And then you can consider yourself cursed as to where you give birth to a child. And now you experience the pain of that being taken from you after having had life. It's equally, it probably equaled or surpassed the pain of having 10 lost lives in the beginning stages, but you did not listen to the message. There are other ways to give love to another being. You could adopt, you could do whatever, but to each his own. That's an example of how your karma, cause and effect, is returned to you in equal measure unless you choose not to get it. Then it can come louder. It can come louder. It definitely can. So the next thing you can do is to study yourself, the false self, the created self in this reality. Look at your zodiac, okay? It's important. You will figure out a lot from this. Look at your zodiac, your sun sign, but not just, hey, I'm a Taurus because I am a Taurus, but I'm so much more than that because a Taurus is a fixed sign. Look at that's another way that you can actually be holding on to your own curses or karma, is by being too fixed. You have to understand your makeup, your body makeup, your zodiac, your astrological chart, your birth chart, to understand what your tendency is toward. So the fixed signs are Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius. Those are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. So your nature is going to be to cling on to a viewpoint, to cling on to a framework, and it's going to be more difficult or challenging for you to detach from that said framework. So where you could be so stubborn in choosing that you're right about something, that you're going to choose to deliberately ignore your intuition, red flags, karmic warnings, things like that, to where you could then be pulling in your own curses because you refuse to get the lessons, because you're stubborn, you're fixed. So then look at the rest of your chart. So that's your sun sign. Your sun sign is just basically how you show up, and it's your normal, like your packaging. Like they talk about, like if you have a new watch and you get it in a new box, that's the box that comes out, that your new watch comes in, and the brand label that's on the box. Your moon sign is, that's your rising sign. That's how the world sees you, your outside packaging, your rising sign. And then your sun sign is the brand, whatever it is. And then inside, the actual watch and how it's made up, the mechanics of it, the intricacies, that's your moon sign. So that's why it's very important to understand your moon, because that's your emotions and how you're made up, and how when you're in your most vulnerable, relaxed state, which is usually when you're in intimate relationships, that's how you connect and that's how you revert. That's how you operate. So once you know those things, and then you go to your north node, your south node. Your north node is going to be what you're supposed to grow into in this life. Your south node is what you've already mastered in the past life or in this one. You could look at it however you want, but it's true. And when you refuse to live as your north node, to move into who you are meant to be, to grow into the lessons you're supposed to, that's another way where you can be cursed, where life is going to force you to move out of your comfort zone, your south node, and project into who you were meant to be. Refuse to learn the lessons, you're going to get kind of shaken up as much as is needed, because there's an invisible force. You are on stage, your actions are being recorded, whether you're moving forward or progressing, it's seen, it's witnessed, and there is a reason, and it's not everybody else's fault. Okay? You are refusing to look within. And so that's the next thing. So you have to challenge that person. You learn your birth chart, and then you challenge that person. You say, okay, I realize that I can be stubborn, so I'm going to make a deliberate effort to loosen up in terms of this thing. Not your convictions, your morals, and things that are firm, right? We're talking about if you want to be petty about something and just make up your mind, oh no, I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to walk to you. You're going to walk to me. Okay, and you realize that you're actually punishing yourself because you really want to go on the other side of the street, and there's all kinds of stuff that you want on the other side of the street, but just for the sheer matter of you just don't want to be the one to have to cross, you're going to limit yourself from ever accessing what's on the other side of the street. The universe says, you want to be stubborn, congratulations, you're going to get whatever's on your side of the street. You're going to be blocked from everything else that's on this other side. Same thing with your chakras. If you want to see only the physical, you're going to have a very physical life. Physical things that you covet are going to be taken away from you, stripped away from you until you recognize, hey, there's a higher life. There's more available to you. Whether you want to believe it and dabble in it or no, oh, do I believe in God? Do I not believe in God? Do you believe in yourself? You are the magician. You're the magi. You are the magic, okay? You are the creator. You can see that when we talk about these cause and effect. And likewise, everyone is. So we're kind of in this bubble where we're surrounded by each other's creations. But once you get powerful enough, you can actually repel others from influencing your situation. But you're not going to avoid your own flow of karma and energetic exchange. You can't do that. So then you need to listen to the story that you tell yourself. That's the most important thing. Listen to the stories that you repeat about your life and how things have transpired up until now. If your story is told from the point of view of a victim, this is what I just came to this conclusion. If you tell your story from the point of view, like think about yourself as a director, a film writer, you're on stage, you're writing your own story. When you tell yourself the story in your head, he did this, he did that, she did this happened to me, this happened to me, and this happened to me. I'm telling my story from the point of view of the victim. And I'm choosing, consciously or unconsciously, to tell my story from the point of view of the victim. If you recognize that, cool. Stop it. Stop right there. You are not a victim. Okay? That's one of the main things. Flash it on. You're not the victim. You need to start looking at the situation from a different view because you've been telling the story from the wrong perspective. If, on the other hand, you tell your story and it's from the aggressor's point of view, I got over on this person, I did that, I came up this way, they think that they got their way with me doing this, and I actually got over on them by doing that. If you find out that you're the aggressor in your story, stop. That's also wrong. Victim-aggressor is a past mindset. It's fading away. We need to break out of that because that's a system of control, of thought, pattern, reaction, response that's very lower vibrational. I'm the victim or I'm the aggressor. Okay, that's both lower consciousness. It allows others to feed off of you or you are feeding off of another instead of creating your own life source and moving in that like toroidal energetic flow that brings you up and out, expands, those kinds of mindsets limit you. They bring you in and down. Like if you think about that swimming, if you're doing this motion around yourself, you're going to sink. Those energies bring you down, plummet down in consciousness. They are restricting, okay? So you need to get out of the victim-aggressor mindset. You realize that you are the creator. You realize that you had a hand in it. You study yourself. You acknowledge the patterns. You acknowledge cause and effect. You look at how there's been 10 times a lesson and you chose to move the same way. And then you study like simple things like the moon cycles. We have a full moon coming up on Halloween. Huge energy right before an election. We're being geared up to be really triggered right now. So this would be a great time to start getting ahead of the energy, recognizing full moon is when it's at its fullest energy. Whether you think that's woo-woo or not, people have seen women's menstrual cycles are influenced by the moon. It's natural. People's energies start to get a little bit wonky around a full moon. It's natural. It actually affects our waters. So anyways, release at the time of the moon. Take an honest inventory of what's going on with you, of what your patterns are, whatever that curse is, or whatever that area is that you want to change. Even if it's just physical clutter, pack it up, get it out of there, release something. You need to release and make a ritualistic effort to show that you're going to bring new energy into this next cycle because it's just going to repeat. At the new moon, you're doing opposite. You're setting your affirmations. You're calling in what you want to see. And again, all of our intentions do not infringe or restrict or control or manipulate or force or do anything to another. You cannot affect, you can try to, you can set that intention, but that's that cause and effect that's going to ricochet back to you. If you try to manipulate or set your intentions to do something on another person's behalf, that energy comes back to you. You need to focus on yourself. You're the actor, it's your movie, it's your stage, and you are on stage. The universe knows if you have been setting your intentions to manipulate other people. Okay, so then every effort that you have made, consciously or unconsciously, in each cycle to get over on someone else or to stop someone else's progress and their flow, that's going to come back to you however long it takes. It could sneak up when you're on the high, the wheel of fortune. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. It could be when you're really feeling at your highest, when you're really riding the wave and you've got a lot going for yourself. Then they might choose that time to give you that lesson back from, hey, 10 years ago, remember when so-and-so was doing well and you chose to act from envy and malice and undercut them and secretly seek to destroy them. That energy comes back to you. So make your intentions about yourself. If you want to release something within yourself. I watched a video, and this lady, she happened to be a therapist, and she was throwing out some really real questions about relationships. And I just wrote down those questions real quick, and I just gave myself a therapy session. Get really honest about what's going on. I'll read some of those questions for you here that she was saying. And just title it, To Be Clear. Get really clear with yourself and honest. You can do this. It doesn't have to be about relationships. It could be about money, any of those categories. So who is it that I was dealing with? Who is it that I am dealing with? How did I get with this person in the first place? Why didn't it work out? What triggered me? When did I start feeling sad? What was I sad about? Why did I put up with it for so long? Why did I leave? Why wouldn't I be with them again? What connections are there between them and anyone I've dated before? Why do I tend to attract people who are emotionally unavailable? It gets real. It gets deep, okay? So why do I attract people that have mommy issues? How is this a mirror of what's going on inside of me? What valuable information can I take from this situation to move forward? And this doesn't even have to be with something that just happened to you. You can dig up your bag of shit, your bag of drama and baggage from when you were 2 years old. You can relate that to, just shift it and talk about whatever situation, whatever you're carrying, your shame or your guilt or whatever has set you back substantially, address it and just sit there and be honest with yourself. If you're not going to go to a therapy session, and everybody needs therapy because we're in a world that's run by psychopaths, it is what it is. So that we have trauma, and then we have our own familial trauma, and then we have our own trauma that we inflict on ourselves by not being honest with ourselves. So at least do yourself that favor. I was just starting to flow, and I was like, holy crap, when you read it back and you're like, the person that I was to behave in certain situations the way that I did, you can no longer fit so neatly in that victim mode or that aggressor mode even, or put someone, up here or down here even. You can look at it raw, clear, open. If you're not going to say it to anyone else, just get it out there on paper or, just type it out. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. It just needs to happen so that this can open up, and then these can open up and you can see the situation with new eyes, and you're like, wow, am I the person that would experience that again? Do I want more of that, or do I want something different? You release yourself, and you release that old version of yourself, and you release that person as well, so that you can show up differently in a situation. Allow yourself to be transformed. Allow the ego death. Allow the death. That's a very esoteric and occult thing to go about, is the kiss of death. When you allow yourself to die unto yourself, unto who you knew you were before, that story, it goes away. And then you can write all the whole new script. You become the creator. Who do I want to be in this next cycle? After I release all that, by being really honest with myself, by really looking at the situation, whatever it may be, and then saying, am I proud of how I showed up in this? Where am I holding shame? Where am I holding guilt? How could I be different? Or am I doing a damn good job? Yes, I want more of this. Then you can also get to that place and bring in more of what you want. But you do have to go through these steps, acknowledging and, taking a real honest inventory. So I hope that that's helpful to someone. It's been extremely helpful to me, and it's a rude awakening, basically, because nothing is happening to you, no matter how bad it is. I mean, I've had some traumatic stuff in my life too. I understand it's not cool, but something on a higher level knows that you were built to stand here today, to say that you've been through those things, and you're still here for a reason. They say that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. You don't have to be religious to understand that. If you look at yourself as God, as a God source, as a replica, as a reincarnation or an offshoot, whatever you want to say, of that energy that is all things, then you would not give yourself more than you could handle. I personally don't want to put myself through 10 miscarriages to give birth to something finally and then still not get the lesson, So if I can handle that and it takes that for me to get it, man, I'm tough. You can look at your story of how much curse is on your life and how much affliction, how much trauma, how much all this stuff, and see like, man, you really feel like you're really strong because you really are putting yourself through the ringer before you make the decision to get out of that cycle, to break that loop, to change, to recognize, to overcome, to blow the whistle, even if it's just that small as speaking out against those aggressors and the people that want to keep victimizing you or whatever it is. You hold their secret, you hold on to that, you're holding on to their karma. Allow them to be released from it in a safe way. But I don't know it all. I just know this much is true for myself. This seems to be working. If the day comes where I find out it's not true, I won't be stubborn about it. I'll release it, prove me wrong. But this seems to be correct so far. It appears to be. So that's what I'm sticking with. And I am done talking. I want to go eat something. So thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.